I think one of the things that's missing with this, doing this that it's not similar to the settlers, is that I can leave if I want to. For the settlers, I think it would have been, especially their first year, you know, if your crops fail the first year and there's so much rain and so much mud and so many bugs and just be down, you know, you'd be you wish you were back in your own country you'd come from or wherever you came from, and I think it'd be really difficult knowing you couldn't go home, that this is home no matter what. Go, Duke and Diamond.
June 19th. Frank and Tim begin plowing the soil in the south pasture and discover rich black earth. They'll seed barley here in the hope it will yield the crop they need to feed the animals over the winter. The locals say it's been decades since this prairie grass was turned by plow, long enough to make it seem like virgin land and make this pioneer experience real.
They said it was easy to plow once you get the bite and whatnot. I don't think I've discovered the bite. Maybe if you were a cowboy, you could say the closest thing would be pushing a bull to the other end of the corral.
This thing was like, it's like running and shoveling at the same time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Usually, you know, when you work out or something, your hands are not doing a lot of work, really. With this sort of stuff here, your hands are working so much and squeezing so tight in everything we do. Even some of the other work we do, too. I know tomorrow when I wake up, I won't be able to close my hands.
Wait till I get home, boy. My boys won't arm wrestle me. Strong like bull. They beat me 2 weeks ago, but not when I get back.
Okay, go Duke and Diamond.
You're in for a good arm wrestle. Once we disc it and break up the grass and plant our barley, we'll get a minimal crop, but we'll get a good ground breaking for next spring start. Yeah, we may not get a real good crop this year, but it's a start for what we're going to be doing next year. Settlers always had a figure for the next year.
There's more confidence with each pass of the plow. Back in camp, it's a different story. There's a struggle going on to bring some order to the wilderness.
I'm just trying to organize our clothes. As you know, we've been in rain for 2 solid weeks here almost, and it was just a mess, and of course we couldn't get organized, and finally, well, Tim was able to make us these gorgeous shelves. They don't look very gorgeous, but they sure mean an awful lot to us, because now we can at least put our stuff up. We just had it in gunny sacks all over the place, and oh man, it was just chaos.
Are you going to put a divider up in here?
Yeah, we are. We're going to put up a curtain up here, and so that we will have some of our own space. Yeah. Obviously, they'll still hear Tim snoring in the night, but at least we'll have a little bit more privacy.
Well, you wanted to move the well.
Yeah.
And move the tent.
Well, I was thinking of moving the well in the tent, and you guys kind of were...
Well, if you've seen all the work we did to dig that well, the last thing, it was very frustrating.
Last night, the pioneers had their first big argument. It was bound to happen sooner or later.
We want to work as a team and help, so it'd be hard us sitting here saying, you build the well yourself if you're going to do another one.
I can see
so
moving.
I can
see moving. They're 2 strong-willed couples living under one canvas roof and under pressure to produce their own food and shelter. They're modern-day people who've been turned into settlers and sent back to survive in the 1870s. They have to learn how to work as a team.
Them trying to make us like them and us trying to make them like us isn't going to work.
We realized Tim and Deanna are a lot more emotional people. Like they like to share. Like Deanna said the other morning, let's all say something today that's good about today, or let's all say something that's good about each other. Where the whole idea of doing that irks me, and I can do it in little ways, but I can't be all feely and touchy. And Frank and I are the other way, but we're coming across rude. And so it's finding a medium where we can be supportive and help each other.
Or else this project's not going to work if we're not going to work together as a team.
Yeah.
The team has other troubles. One of these pioneers has doubts about being here.
Tim was really into it. I know Frank really loves it, and I found that I was getting frustrated because I wanted Deanna to be loving it as much as we were, and be as optimistic as we were, and I didn't feel like she was, so I was finding it really hard. I wanted to be encouraging, but I was frustrated too.
Have you thought about leaving? Honest.
Yes. Yes, I have. I have to be honest. I mean, not that I would go, but oh Lord, give me a reason to go.
And Tim, what about you? Deanna said she's here for you.
What a woman, eh?
She is. I would go for Frank.
I was not dragging her, kicking here.
No, no. I mean, you definitely wanted to do this, and I knew this was something that was important to you, and I love you very much, and I wanted to do it for you.
The show producers arrive and find the pioneers talking about building 2 houses instead of 1. They're saying they need some privacy if they're going to get through to next June. But it'll come at a price. The extra materials will eat into their budget, and they have just $518.70 for the year.
And the roof. And
The settlers have agreed to stay here until next spring. But there's news that Deanna's close cousin has died. The funeral is a 4-hour drive away. She decides to leave for a day to grieve with her family.
it's a tough battle. Yeah. A cynic might say she's just going to the funeral to escape for a day.
No, no, because I really thought about this very, very clearly, or very carefully. No, I definitely would not. I'm going with apprehension, because like I said, it's perhaps easier just to stay here than to go out into the real world. It's hard, being a mom and having left your 3 boys at home in your own home, them taking care of your own home. But I did this for my husband because he really wanted to do that. Now, I know a lot of people would criticize that. What would you call submissive spirit? But you know, we've been married a long time. There's a lot of give and take in marriage. A lot of giving towards one another. And even though it's a sacrifice sometimes on your part, you're given back 100 times.
It's morning, and Deanna's sister is coming to take her back to the 21st century.
What are you guys doing there?
Digging out some thorns and slivers.
Most people getting ready to go somewhere wouldn't be doing this. I last night, we do have one, what do you call it, a slough? Do you call it a slough?
Yeah.
Out in the field, and I never in all my life would ever go into something like that. But last night, we were just filthy from working in the garden, and I actually went in it. And oh, that water felt wonderful. Haven't had water all over my body for now 3 weeks, and it just felt wonderful. The things that you do out here.
How about for leaving the era of the 1870s and going back? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's scary. It's a bit scary because you've put all these things out of your mind, and you've coped with having little water. You've coped with having no bathroom and being filthy all the time, and I don't know what it's going to be like again today to perhaps have a good cup of coffee, but it's going to be with mixed emotions of happiness and sadness today.
Bye-bye, honey. Love you. Don't let this thing run away on you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, hon. Very strange feeling watching her drive away in a vehicle. Actually, I got choked up thinking, I don't know, just we've been so together, so close for the past few weeks, and it's just a very strange feeling having her not beside me. family is really important to her. I stand behind her in her decision to go. She's struggling right now with loneliness, etc. And my hope is that she'll be able to come back and really feel a part of the four of us. I think it'll be a good opportunity for her also to, I hope, miss what she has here.
I think you're right. I think hopefully she'll go there and she'll see that how much more of a carefree, sort of simple life we have here that's really, really a good life.
There's no time for Tim and Frank to dwell on Deanna's struggle. Work is always waiting.
I said we were starting to get the hang of it here. A couple of these rows here, you could just bowl right down it, especially the gutter balls.
Yeah, I was gonna say one big gutter maybe.
They've mastered plowing. Now they need to break up these furrows and get the soil ready for seeding. They get some extra horsepower from Alan Webb, a neighbor, who's brought over an antique disker to do the job.
There's always been stuff like this around since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. This particular disc is a little bit after the settlers' era, but ones like it were around in that time. Probably from about the 1850s. Most of the common pieces of equipment that you would have seen farmers using in the 30s were invented about the time of the U.S. Civil War and started to become common around that time. So whether the settlers would have brought something like this with them, I don't know, but somebody in the district would have had one, and if you want to get your sod cut up, you need something like this. Otherwise, they're digging this whole field up with a couple of forks and a hoe. So you can see the advantage of having a neighbor with a disc, and preferably some fresh horses, even if they're a bit soft like Jiggs and Amy are here tonight.
We can't afford the equipment that he has, so we've hired him. We're paying him $1 a day. That's with his horses and and his equipment. We'll get from sunrise to sunset out of him.
If we were disking on stubble, I'm sure these would stay put. I don't know how it's going to work here on the rough ground. As you can see, we're bouncing a fair bit.
Why do you need the rocks, Alan?
Just to get more weight on the discs. They penetrate a lot better, especially on an angle if you've got more weight. Just about every old farmer's disc was loaded with rocks. Ellie, Amy, Jig.
Oh, this is really good. This is a place where we can go and just cool off.
A little muddy in the bottom, but we'll pick the bloodsuckers off after.
What did you say there? Yes, we have to do a tick check and a bloodsucker check after all our swimming is done. Don't dirty up my water. I think there's a ton of mosquitoes out there and swimming in this slough, and they're all over the place biting at you, and it's not good.
Today was the first really hot day since we've had all that rain. I was trying to milk Daisy tonight, and they were swarming. I wore Frank's overalls and a long sleeve shirt to milk, even though supposedly it was about 30 degrees out today, and they were still biting me right through it. So all I've done today is scratching. I have scabs everywhere. Anyway, it's starting to drive me nuts, but today's only the first day, so we'll have to learn how to deal with it.
Deanna's returned from the funeral, and she's brought back more than just memories of her favorite cousin.
It was kind of a scary feeling walking down that muddy path out to the 21st century. I wondered how I would react to it. Of course, all of you thought I wouldn't come back. But I did go to the funeral. It was about a 3.5-hour trip. My father and mother drove me, as well as an uncle from Toronto. And the whole way there, they talked about the farm, about their time as children on the farm, and as adults as well. They had a farm in Greenland, Manitoba. And You know, for the first time in my life, I could identify with my dad and my uncle as they talked about, you know, what to feed the pig, what to feed the chickens. The talking with all my relatives and all of their questions about the farm and all of their advice. It was just wonderful. It was just very, very encouraging. I came back with new eyes.
I noticed a phenomenal change in her when she came back.
There's a big deal of difference in her now than before. It seems like she likes it a lot more. And she wants to be here. She's happy to be here.
Yeah.
And I think she's feeling she's getting something out of it now.
The pioneers are beginning to work on Frank and Alana's house. They'll need to cut and peel 40 poplar trees for the walls.
Well, this is our measuring stick. And that'll be the height of the walls. And then we've got 2 1x4s on the top, and 1 1x4 on the bottom. That'll hold the walls in place. They'll be all vertical. We know that it'll be a lot quicker to do it this way, and a lot easier for the manpower that we have.
We don't need to use the horses either to haul the logs that we can carry them by hand, so.
The pioneers have looked at the trees and made a shrewd decision. They've abandoned the horizontal log house design that's common on the prairies. They think these short and skinny poplars will work best standing upright. And there's an old photograph from pioneer times that supports their theory. But that still means spending days in the bush in the company of bugs.
We never thought we'd wear them. It's like a turtleneck, and off we go. Fashion television. Oh. Go, woman. We work as quick as we can, and you look forward to getting back out for a break again. And then you sweat. Like yesterday, we were just drenched when we got out of here. Because you have so many clothes on and it's warm outside. But it's nicer than getting bitten, so you kind of pick which one you want.
What do you do for the scratching part of the bite?
Oh my goodness. I scratch all night. Like I'll find myself just sitting there, and you're like, oh, I gotta stop. You're not thinking about it and you're always scratching. But yeah, a lot of scratching.
Well, I've had mosquitoes. I mean, we always have mosquitoes at home at the lake, but man, nothing like here. When we're in the tent there, it's literally a hum around the tent. It's literally almost like an airplane or a helicopter hovering over it. But obviously, you gotta just cover up. That's the best thing.
Tim, your back's a mess.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Like it doesn't mind over matter.
Well, we just made smudges. We make them around the area, which is just smoke, and it gets rid of a lot of the mosquitoes. It bothers the women, the mosquitoes, so.
Not you?
Not really. If you think about them all the time, they'll bother you, so.
I find going to the bathroom one of the worst things. You go to the outhouse and you get about 10 bites on your butt.
Well, they've said this is what's going to drive us crazy are the bugs.
He's got his shirt off and his bonnet on.
Yeah.
I tell you, they work. There's a reason for these terrible clothes.
Who wore the bonnets?
It just started raining about, I'd say half an hour ago. We were all working. We've come in. We kind of stripped down and had sort of a really nice shower out in the rain. It's now pouring down rain. It is really, really raining hard. There's lots of thunder and lightning.
The weather is challenging the pioneers again. On this day, the average rainfall for the entire month of July falls in 1 4-hour period.
harrowed, disked, harrowed, and first time turned in many, many, many years. But I think we're going to get a crop that will be enough to make it worthwhile. So I'm expecting a decent crop here.
How much will it be?
Well, I'm not a farmer, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you any kind of, I wouldn't know what to say. A lot of times, very honestly, a lot of times you just simply do not know what to do. And I think the settlers, when they came across, they had a real deep faith, and they just said, I don't know what to do. Simply do not know what to do. And I think that's those times they would pray to God and say, God, you're just going to have to teach us, show us somehow. And I think that's sometimes what we do. But it's drawn us closer together, very much so.
Any thoughts on that, Deanna?
Well, I would agree with that, but I really, in a new way, I have prayed prayers that I'd never prayed before.
That's for sure. Pray for strength and
safety. There's
safety is a big
so many
issue.
situations with the horses
Yeah.
that could have ended up really serious.
Well, grow.
Well, this is a prairie storm just coming in. I don't know if you can tell by the sky, but it's just beautiful. Gray as anything.
That's the thunder.
Lots of thunder. So we just kind of packed everything up. And we're getting ready to go inside. You can see the trees, it's really windy out.
Wow.
Oh, weird! Look at it!
It's hail!
So much for our crops! Ow! Nice pellet! Get some! We're having a cold drink! Woo! Ice! Get the tea out!
So we've got a fair amount of water in here. Rained all last night. It was quite a storm.
See the bottom of our blanket? So we stuck our feet in all night. Wet blanket.
Oop, can't see.
This is the day after the storm. The wind is really, really high. Everything around us is just soaked. Everything's under 2 inches of water. I guess we won't be finishing the well today. It's so full of water from the rain last night, it'll probably take a week and a half to drain out. Big mess. We might as well have ducks in there instead of chickens.
The weather starts to improve. The logs for Frank and Alana's house are peeled and ready. It's time to put down the floor and raise the walls. It'll be small, 10 by 12, a little bit bigger than a 21st century garden shed.
Ready, Kim? There's the edge of the bed, and then I'll have the window in here.
I think it's amazing. Getting our house. Really exciting to have privacy. We just have somewhere dry. Haven't been dry in a while. And just clean, a floor we can sweep. It's not like the tarp or everything gets stuck in it. Keep our food dry. You can take some of the kitchen food and put it in here. So that'll be good not to have always be worrying about it every time it rains. It's exciting. It's happening fast.
Is it? Yeah, hurt my back a little bit. We were lifting the wall, and I have a compressed disc, and I guess I must have irritated it a bit, because the next morning when I was milking, I was just moving Daisy's leg out of the way, and I just pushed it aside, and it hit me hard, and I knew right then and there I was in trouble, because I couldn't breathe without pain.
How's it feel to have the outside world in a box come in? Are you any
I guess I'm in a sort of a dilemma where I have to have it. It's either that or let Frank do the work for the next, I'm afraid to say how long, maybe, well, at least a couple of weeks he'd have to be working by himself.
He's got poison ivy on his stomach now.
I don't know how I got it there. Lots of it?
Yeah, why don't touch it?
How much is he hurting? Yeah.
Lots. He's too proud to admit it, but he is. I sleep with him, so I know.
You're not.
Oh, I see him. He thinks I'm sleeping, and he. Sorry. He winces. He's in a lot of pain. He really is.
July 10th. Frank is scything wild hay. The pioneers figure they'll need 10 tons of it to feed Duke and Diamond and Daisy the cow through the long months of winter.
They used to do this, every year, and I guess you get used to it, and you get the proper rhythm down for it, which is really hard to get that down and to actually have it always cutting. It's really hard work, and there is not much hay in here. So you put a lot of effort in it, and you don't really get much return.
What is the status now of your crop?
Well, it's planted, it's seeded. So right now I think we're waiting for it to grow, which it's underwater right now. Everything it's just total muck, and all the furrows are just full of water. They're all like little individual streams. Right now all our seeds are rotting out there, and the problem is the weather. On a dry year, our crop would be growing. I think you look at any farmer in the area, when we go for walks or we go for a wagon ride, we see all the farmers in the area are having the same problems. I think we've done the very best with what we can, and we're just going to have to, leave it up to Mother Nature to decide how much we're going to get.
Okay. Well, we've just come back from the Hutterite colony. It's Sunday, and we went for a walk, and we went and visited the Hutterites. They were expecting us, and I must say we had a wonderful, wonderful time.
I want to say that it was a very kind of, not embarrassing, but I felt very inadequate when I looked at their gardens, their fields, and then I thought of our mud hole and our cabbages and potatoes rotting in the swamp that we're in, and I was frustrated with it.
I felt the exact same way. I was kind of embarrassed and frustrated and almost a little
peeved. We're going to beat the odds.
Oh, we definitely are.
We have to shoot every animal in the area to live off of, steal every other farmer's crop.
Everybody's garden.
We farm from 2 to 5 a.m.
Yeah. Well, we can't steal, we won't eat. We're after the rooster today. The little rooster that's running over there.
Does he need him to get eggs from those other ones?
No. We don't need him to get eggs, hon.
Why?
They don't need to get pregnant to have it lay an egg.
Oh.
We gotta let Alana kill something one of these days.
Do you want to kill it?
She's never killed something in her life. Well, she couldn't kill something like this.
Mind you, it could be habitual.
She might go after us after a while. Okay.
Don't hit my fingers. When I trust her with an axe, I've seen her miss firewood.
Dearly beloved, we're gathered here in the presence of these witnesses to witness the execution.
Silly woman!
Sorry.
What was that, Deanna? You missed.
No, I did hit with the end.
You wear your own gloves today, Deanna.
Well,
starter?
I started with these. And actually we got the sigh out to begin with. We got rid of the first layer. And this I got closer. And now we're going with the final. And later I'm going to finish off her toes. I'm going to give her the full pedicure. And give her the full worked over.
And is she enjoying this?
Very much so. This is heaven.
Mosquitoes are driving the horses quite crazy, and they're just scratching each other's backs right now.
This is empty. What a box. I really packed it in down here.
Frank and Alana are desperate to move in and escape the mosquitoes. But first, they need to seal the spaces between the logs. One option is stuffing moss into the cracks. This is the other, a mixture of straw and clay. It's a choice they'll live with and perhaps regret when winter arrives.
Then once we get the lumber, we'll do the roofs, and then I'll make you a bed, then you can move in. Because the minute it's chinked,
Yeah.
after it's done, we can move in. So if you chink it beforehand.
I'll chink all day tomorrow.
Terrible bugs, eh, Frank?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're really bad. And when you stop moving, they're just all over you. The best thing to do is what we tend to do when we're sawing or anything is just move around as much as you can.
At night it's starting to make us feel kind of crazy. It's starting to get unbearable. We find we go to bed, if we can, especially Deanna and I, at about 8:30, because after that they get intolerable and we want to get washed up before then. And to try and wash your hands and face, you just can't before that.
There's no escape. They have no repellent, and they've tried all the home remedies. Things like eating loads of garlic, slathering on vinegar or a mixture of dry mustard and water. Nothing works except the smudge fires. The mosquitoes are slowly grinding down their spirits.
This is our other big thing right now with the bugs so bad. If you forget to pee before 8:30 and all of a sudden you have to go, you can't come out. You just hear them swarming and you're too scared to come out and you suffer all night. So we've just lost all pride, and if you haven't gone by 8:30 and you have to go, we just pee in the tent. I mean, there's no other choice with the bugs like this. You'd rather that than have to come out here and deal with the bugs. So we always take our pee potties with us. It's just like winter.
What are the logs for?
Our beds were almost floating the other morning, and we couldn't dry the tarp out. We took the tarp out all day to dry, and then it started raining again. I mean, there's not been a day that we can leave it out all day to dry, and the ground underneath is so wet, we were sweeping it with a broom to get rid of the puddles, and we couldn't. So this, if you step on it with your socks, it's just soaked, and it's probably been 3 days. So we have to put our ticks up on here because the bottom ones are already all moldy. I don't know if you can see. A little bit. The sides here, they were all green and they're still damp. It's really frustrating. I hate looking down here and seeing water and mud. Deanna hates it too. We can't stand it.
We've seriously considered building an ark.
Every 2 weeks, there's an uneasy collision between the past and the present. It begins with a 4-mile trek to a rural intersection designated as the drop-off point for their supplies. Here, rough-sawn lumber for the 2 houses is transferred to the wagon, along with all the other bits and pieces they'll need.
So how have you been enjoying your, shall we say, holidays, Bob?
Oh, holidays have been great.
It's too much for one load. Half the lumber is dropped off in her neighbor's yard, where there's time to stop and swap settler stories with someone who truly understands.
Oh man, I drove so many of those things in my young days. 12 years old, I was out in the field.
Yeah?
4 horses.
Were we plowing and
Doing everything.
yeah?
When the horses are trained right, in the fall, you know, it used to be cold, eh? You'd be sitting on the plow, you're cold.
Yeah.
You used to tie your reins around the lever of the plow. You'd walk behind the plow and them horses would go straight as a button, right down to the other end of the field. And you'd holler, haw, or gee, whichever is going to be to turn. And they'd turn, walk around in the fur and come back again.
Yeah.
Well, the horses are worked every day, eh? They get to know this, you know.
See you later.
Yeah, see you later.
Some nights I don't even sleep for thinking about them. It's hard for them.
We've been thinking they have a pretty hard time of it, under the conditions of the weather mainly.
Wow, it's hard enough for the modern guy to make hay and whatnot. It's virtually impossible for some of them right now to make hay. They're just starting to, and they've got to go and cut it with a scythe and feed 2 horses and a cow. I don't think they'll do it.
Well, them 2 horses, they'll eat a bale of hay a day. So you can figure on, well, 210 days of feeding from freeze up till the grass is ready again. So there's over 200 bales just for the horses. Then the cow has to be fed. Well, they'll never cut that with a scythe. Never under the sun they'll do that.
Some rough times ahead for them?
Yeah, if they have to do that, that's the rough time. That's a rough time.
On the second trip, they pick up the raw supplies they'll need to feed and keep themselves for 2 more weeks. Everything is deducted from their budget of $500 1870s. It's a trip that takes all day.
We left about at 9:30, I guess, this morning for a shipment of wood, and it's probably around 5:30 now, and we've still got about a half hour of driving and delivery yet to do. It takes a long time. You plan on a day when everything else was just a half hour or so and back home. Open it up, hon. Okay, that's that.
A nice chicken. Hopefully that'll stay cold.
Just in the ground?
Yes, yeah, just a fridge in the ground, and it's been okay till now with our milk and everything. Of course, it's getting warmer, so we'll have to find out. Might have to sink it in the well.
Hey, all that stuff can stay out, the seeds and stuff.
The mail arrives with the last load of lumber. Silence falls on the camp. For homesteaders, news from away has always been bittersweet, a reminder of loved ones left behind, and the real price of a pioneer adventure.
Some friends, but I just read one from my son.
Right.
Well, we're building right now the roof, and we'll be putting on felt paper, 15-pound felt, and we'll be running it up and down the roof instead of lengthways as we do back home. We want to run it lengthway or up and down so that it'll actually be our finished product for rainproofing this year. But we'll be putting the roof on today, probably finishing it off tomorrow, and then tomorrow we'll also be putting the windows in, doors, we'll build it. And then Frank and I will be building some interior shelving and tables. I don't think I've ever worked with boards like this at all. Any boards I've ever worked with were planed, never cut them by hand. I mean, we look at this place here, we've done absolutely every single cut by hand. Whether it was the logs, 2x6s, 2x8s, 2x4s rather. Everything was done by hand.
Probably the most favorite part of my day is taking Daisy out to the pasture, and I have to come through this field here, which is full of wildflowers, which change from day to day, the ones that come blooming out.
Isn't that nice to see?
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Good for the spirit.
Very, very. This is where I feel free out here. In fact, we're going to be building our house just back over there, more in the prairie, because it's a more freeing type of feeling for Tim and I than to be back in the bush.
July 20th. After 44 nights in the tent, finally it's moving day. and Alana can't wait to settle in.
This is my fancy curtain, and it's one of the first things I did when I found out we were moving here a couple weeks ago. And I just thought it would make it homey all of a sudden, just make something so it felt like home instead of piles of wooden shelves everywhere. And I thought, what else can you do? We have a bit of material. We don't have any little, you know, kind of feminine type things. So Frank made one little box today, which is nice. He has it for all his gun and his hunting stuff. Down here, he kind of copied one that we have already. So that's his little guy box. And then the shelving is just for blankets and that sort of thing. And then we built the bed high on purpose, so we could store stuff here in the winter. Just maybe burlap bags of winter coats or some extra straw or, you know, some extra moss if we need it. My next thing is I'm just going to pick some flowers and put it in here, and then it'll feel like home. Frank wants to do all the little guy things. I just want to get the flowers and the curtains in and get it clean, of course.
When they were first together, Frank made a promise to Alana that someday she would have a log home. Today he'll keep that promise. It's more humble than she ever dreamed it would be. More welcome than any suburban mansion.
Do you want to try putting it under the desk?
I'm going to bang my feet against it every time we go in there.
Bang your feet. Okay, so how about this corner?
What if you just slide it under here every time?
How am I going to open it up? You got to put it here, because it's still going to be over there, right? Yeah. And when all our company comes over, they have somewhere to sit.
It's going to be really good to be off the ground and to be in someplace normal and clean and be by ourselves too. I think is something really, really important. We've been living with another couple for 6 weeks now in a tent that's wet and cramped and everything. So besides you getting all crabby because of all that, then you're also having other people there and you're trying to split everything up and try to give everyone room, and it's really hard. 4 people in a tent is kind of hard to come up with times without being really obvious about it. And
Which there have been a few. Frank the other night leans over to me and he goes, Lana, they're having sex. I thought, oh no. So I listened for a minute. It's like you don't want to listen, but you kind of want to know. So then I heard them like, oh. So he covered my ears and I was horrified. Oh.
You just got a sheet between you. It's pretty bad. Alana and I, they always get up early. Well, they don't get up early. We all wake up at the same time, but they leave the tent right away to do chores. So
we usually get out of the tent about half an hour after them because they have morning chores.
So we usually have that. At least we have that half an hour to ourselves. But
so we finally yelled at Deanna one day because she kept making comments about us sleeping in, and we kept saying we never sleep in, and she really thinks we sleep in. So finally we said, Deanna, we just have sex every time you go out there and milk the cow. We're up.
So that. Yeah, exactly. So I think now she purposely tries to stay in the tent longer just to...
Yeah, she's been sleeping in a bed herself.
Just to screw up our system, I think we had going.
With Frank and Alana gone, Tim and Deanna have the chance to move the tent and haul out the tarp for its first big cleaning.
6 weeks of mud and mold.
The smell is unreal. Okay, look at that difference. That's what it's supposed to look like. A lot of hard elbow grease, but hey, it's going to smell a lot better when we go to bed tonight.
So how many weeks have we lived in the tent now? 6?
Just about 6 weeks. They have lived 7.
Yeah, 6 weeks we've lived in this little canvas tent with no floor.
Side by side.
Yeah. So it'll be a nice night. Be able to sleep soundly. They won't have to put up with my snoring.
And maybe have a little sex.
Yeah, maybe a lot.
That's a full moon.
Yeah, almost.
Woo!
Okay.
Well, tonight's the first night in our new cabin.
It's really exciting.
we got to wash tonight inside and actually get to stand on something hard after, and we feel totally clean.
We're on our new bed. We built it up. Frank built it up really high so that we can store stuff underneath it. And we just stuffed our ticks. So I don't know if you guys can tell them there, but they're really big.
Yeah. Try this new bed tonight.
Yeah, I've got some people here with a team of horses.
Look like some settlers, and they're wondering where they can park them.
Next on Pioneer Quest, the homesteaders head to town for some fun. Disaster strikes the barn. And finally, it's moving day for Tim and Deanna.
We were in that tent 11 weeks, the longest I've ever spent in a tent in my life.
Are you gonna miss it?
Negatory.
Join us for episode 4 of Pioneer Quest, a year in the real West.
Well, let's pray. Dear Lord, as we pack up and plan on leaving thank you for a beautiful day we can travel.
Thank you for 7 weeks of
hell. And we thank you for this food, our last meal. Amen. And now leaving.
That's it.
Over to you, Alana.
I've had it with this place. It's hell here. Prairie purgatory.
Prairie purgatory. That's a perfect word.
Screw off everybody out there drinking your Tim Hortons.
If you think it's easy out here, Don Cherry
And romance.
Yeah.
Remember them people who say
a couple of said this was romantic.
This is romantic. Do I look?
I'll tell you how romantic it is.
Look at us.
You guys had no clue whatsoever. Good thing you didn't get picked.
You can have the romance.
You can have the honeymoon shack out there.
I'm getting more action with mosquitoes.
I'm going back to the tent tomorrow. That's how nice.
No, she's not. She hasn't paid her rent.
I'm practicing snoring.